The alien emperor gifted a broken child in Scorn, the unwanted exchange captain. Marcus Chen stood in the crystalline throne room of the Zephyrian Empire, his weathered hands clenched behind his back. The chamber stretched impossibly, high with walls that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Floating platforms held various alien courtiers, their elongated forms draped in fabrics that shifted color with their moods. At the center of it all sat Emperor Vorthak on his throne of living coral, his 6 arms gesturing dismissively as he spoke. "Ah, the human mercenary returns." Vorthak's voice echoed through translation devices embedded in the walls. His species had evolved from aquatic creatures, and their words carried an otherworldly resonance that made Marcus's teeth ache. "Tell me, Captain Chen, did you eliminate the rebel stronghold on Kepler 442b as promised?" Marcus stepped forward, his combat boots clicking against the polished floor. He had spent 3 months hunting down a group of Zephyrian dissidents who had been disrupting trade routes. The mission had cost him 2 crew members and left his ship badly damaged. Now he needed payment to repair his vessel and pay his remaining crew. "The stronghold is destroyed, Emperor. The rebel leader Zaxxon is dead, and his followers have scattered. Your trade routes are secure." Marcus kept his voice steady, though irritation simmered beneath the surface. The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his people. Yes, we received confirmation 3 days ago, most efficient work. However, there has been a slight change regarding your payment." A cold pit formed in Marcus's stomach. He had dealt with enough alien politicians to recognize the tone. The agreement was 50,000 Imperial credits, non-negotiable. Indeed it was. Vorthak rose from his throne, his impressive height casting shadows across the chamber. "But I find myself in a unique position to offer you something far more valuable than mere credits." From a side chamber, 2 guards emerged, escorting a figure that made Marcus do a double-take. She appeared young, perhaps in her early 20s. By human standards, though aging was difficult to judge among Zephyrians. Unlike the other aliens present, her skin had a silvery blue tint instead of the deeper oceanic colors of her species. Her hair, a cascade of white-silver strands, fell to her shoulders. Most notably, she moved with the aid of what appeared to be a sophisticated mobility device, her legs clearly affected by some medical condition. "Allow me to present Princess Lyra, my youngest daughter." Vorthak's voice carried a note of disdain that the translation system couldn't quite hide. Born with a rare genetic deficiency that has left her limited. In our culture, such imperfections are considered shameful. Lyra's head snapped up, and Marcus found himself staring into the most intelligent eyes he had ever seen. They burned with a mixture of anger, humiliation, and something else. Defiance. When she spoke, her voice was clear and sharp. "Father, you cannot simply give me away like damaged cargo. I can and I will." The Emperor waved one of his arms dismissively. "You serve no purpose to our empire in your current state. At least this way your existence might finally have some value." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He had seen cruelty in many forms across the galaxy, but this casual dismissal of his own daughter struck him as particularly vile. "With respect, Emperor, I came for credits, not for what?" Vorthak's voice turned dangerous. "A member of the royal bloodline? Captain Chen, you clearly don't understand the honor being bestowed upon you. My daughter carries genetic traits that have value beyond mere currency. Her mental capabilities are considerable." Marcus glanced at Lyra again. She sat perfectly, still, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands gripped the arms of her mobility device. Her father was treating her like a transaction, and it was clear this wasn't the first time. "The girl comes with comprehensive medical records, educational transcripts, and technological specifications for her mobility assistance device," Vorthak continued. "Consider her a long-term investment rather than immediate payment." "This is barbaric," Marcus said quietly. "This is practical," the Emperor countered. "She cannot fulfill a royal role in our society. Better she serve some purpose with you than waste away in the palace." Lyra's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Perhaps the human captain would prefer to make his own decision rather. than have terms dictated to him by someone who views beings as property. The throne room fell silent. Several courtiers made sounds of shock at her boldness. Emperor Vorthak's skin darkened to a deep purple, a sign of rage among his species. "You forget yourself, daughter. Your tongue has always been your greatest failing." "No, father. My greatest failing was believing you might someday see me as more than an embarrassment." Marcus found himself speaking before he fully realized it. "I'll take her." Both Vorthak and Lyra turned to stare at him. The Emperor's expression shifted to one of surprise, then satisfaction. Lyra looked stunned. "You make a wise choice, Captain. Lyra's intelligence quotient exceeds that of most beings in the known galaxy. Her physical limitations are regrettable, but perhaps you can find uses for her mental capabilities." "Perhaps I can." Marcus stepped closer to Lyra. "Princess, are you willing to leave this place?" For a moment she studied his face intently. Whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy her. "I have been ready to leave this place since I was old enough to understand what freedom meant." The next hour was spent handling the bureaucratic details of the transfer. Marcus was given access to Lyra's extensive medical files, educational records, and the technical specifications for her mobility device, which he learned was far more advanced than it appeared. The device wasn't just assistive technology, it was a sophisticated piece of engineering that interfaced directly with her nervous system. As they prepared to leave, Emperor Vorthak pulled Marcus aside. "A word of advice, Captain. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment. She may appear fragile, but her mind is dangerously sharp. Keep her occupied with intellectual pursuits, and she should prove useful." "Useful?" Marcus repeated flatly. "Indeed. Oh, and Captain?" Vorthak's 4 eyes gleamed with cold amusement. "Should you find her more trouble than she's worth, remember that Zephyrian law no longer protects her. She is your responsibility now." The walk to Marcus's ship was conducted in tense silence. Lyra's mobility device hummed softly as it carried her across the spaceport's metallic floors. Marcus couldn't help but notice how other beings stared at them. A human mercenary and what appeared to be an alien princess, clearly traveling together. His ship, the Stellar Wanderer, was a modified Terran corvette that had seen better decades. Scorch marks from their recent battle were still visible on the hull, and one of the engine nacelles was held together with emergency patches. "Your ship has character," Lyra observed as they approached the boarding ramp. "That's one word for it." Marcus activated the ramp controls. "Fair warning, the accommodations aren't exactly palace level." "Good. I've had enough of palaces." Once aboard, Marcus showed her to the small guest cabin. The space was cramped but clean, with a narrow bed, storage compartments, and a small workstation. Lyra maneuvered her device around the space, testing. "Accessibility. This will do nicely," she said. "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Marcus is fine, and yes. Why did you agree to take me? You clearly needed those credits for repairs." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, studying her carefully. "Maybe I don't like seeing people treated as property. Maybe I figured someone with your apparent intelligence might be useful crew. Or maybe I just didn't like your father's attitude." "All valid reasons." Lyra's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, I don't intend to be dead weight. My limitations are physical, not mental. I can contribute to ship operations, navigation, communications, technical repairs." "Slow down." Marcus held up a hand. "We've got time to figure out roles and responsibilities. Right now I'm more interested in getting off this planet before your father changes his mind." "He won't. In his eyes, I ceased to exist the moment you accepted his offer." The bitterness in her voice was unmistakable, and Marcus felt another surge of anger toward the Emperor. "His loss," he said simply. Lyra looked up at him in surprise. "You don't even know what I'm capable of." "No, but I know you're intelligent, articulate, and apparently skilled with technology. That's more than I can say for half the crew members I've worked with." Marcus pushed off from the doorframe. "Get settled in, we launch in an hour." As he walked toward the bridge, Marcus wondered what he had gotten himself into. Taking on a passenger was one thing, but he had essentially agreed to become responsible for a princess from an alien empire. The political implications alone could be complicated. On the bridge, he began the pre-flight sequence. The Stellar Wanderer's systems hummed to life around him, familiar and comforting after years of service together. Through the viewport, he could see the sprawling alien city below, its bioluminescent architecture pulsing with patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. "Captain?" Lyra's voice came through the ship's comm system. "I've finished reviewing the technical specifications you mentioned. Your starboard engine is operating at only 60% efficiency. Your navigation array needs recalibration, and your weapon systems are running a software version that's 3 updates out of date." Marcus paused in his pre-flight checks. "You determined all that from the guest cabin?" "Your ship's computer is remarkably forthcoming once you know how to ask the right questions. I've taken the liberty of scheduling maintenance routines for our next port of call and downloading the latest software updates. I hope you don't mind." "How long have you been aboard?" 17 minutes. Marcus stared at the comm panel. In 17 minutes, she had integrated with his ship's systems and diagnosed multiple issues that he had been planning to address over the next few weeks. Either she was incredibly gifted with technology, or Zephyrian education was far more comprehensive than he had realized. "Lyra?" "Yes, Marcus. I think your father was an idiot." There was a pause, then something that might have been a laugh. "That makes 2 of us. Shall we depart? I find myself eager to see what lies beyond this world." As the Stellar Wanderer lifted off from the Zephyrian homeworld, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just become significantly more complicated. But looking at the star charts Lyra had already begun optimizing on his secondary display, he realized it might also have become considerably more interesting. The vast galaxy stretched out before them, full of possibilities neither had imagined when they first met in that crystalline throne room. Whatever came next, Marcus was certain it would be unlike anything he had experienced before. The awakening. Power 3 weeks had passed since Marcus and Lyra departed the Zephyrian homeworld, and the dynamic aboard the Stellar Wanderer had shifted dramatically. What Marcus had initially expected to be a complicated passenger situation had evolved into something resembling a genuine partnership. Lyra had integrated herself into ship operations with remarkable efficiency, handling everything from navigation calculations to communications protocols. Marcus found her in the ship's small engineering bay, her mobility device positioned beside an open control panel. She was elbow deep in the ship's secondary systems, her silver hair tied back in a practical knot. Various tools floated around her in the low-gravity section, held in place by magnetic fields she had somehow rigged to respond to her movements. "Please tell me you're not rewiring my entire ship," Marcus said, settling himself beside her workspace. "Only the inefficient parts," Lyra replied without looking up. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she adjusted circuits. "Your power distribution network was designed for baseline human reflexes. I've been upgrading it to account for enhanced reaction times." "Enhanced reaction times?" Lyra paused in her work, turning to face him. Over the past weeks, Marcus had noticed subtle changes in her appearance. Her movements had become more fluid, more purposeful. Her eyes seemed sharper, more aware of their surroundings. "Marcus, my mobility device isn't just assistive technology. It's a neural interface system. Over time, it's been enhancing my cognitive processing speed and sensory awareness. I didn't fully understand the extent until we left Zephyr Prime." Marcus studied the device more carefully. What he had initially taken for a sophisticated wheelchair was clearly something far more advanced. The sleek surface showed no obvious controls, yet it responded instantly to Lyra's thoughts and intentions. "Your father mentioned it interfaced with your nervous system, but I assumed that was standard for medical equipment." "Standard medical equipment doesn't typically include military-grade processors and sensor arrays." Lyra's expression darkened. "I believe my father's physicians may have had ulterior motives when they designed this system. They told him it was necessary for my condition, but I'm beginning to suspect it was actually an experiment." The implications of her words settled over Marcus like a cold weight. An experiment in what? Enhanced intelligence, improved reaction time, expanded sensory perception. She gestured to the floating tools around them. I've been unconsciously manipulating magnetic fields for the past week. That's not something Zephyrians can normally do. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's proximity alarm began sounding. Both of them moved toward the bridge, Lyra's device carrying her with fluid grace that defied the ship's artificial gravity fluctuations. On the main display, 3 vessels were approaching from different vectors. The ships were unfamiliar to Marcus, but their aggressive formation and targeting scanners suggested hostile intent. Corsairs, Lyra said, studying the sensor readings. Vorthon pirates, based on the hull configurations. They typically target vessels traveling alone through this sector. Great. How do you know that? I've been studying galactic criminal organizations during our journey. It seemed prudent to understand potential threats. The lead pirate ship opened a communication channel. The holographic image of a scarred Vorthon appeared on the bridge, his species' distinctive ridged features twisted into a predatory grin. Unknown vessel, you will surrender your cargo and passengers immediately. Resistance will result in the destruction of your ship. Marcus moved to the weapons console, his hands dancing across familiar controls. This is Captain Chen of the Stellar, Wanderer. You're making a mistake. Find easier prey. The Vorthon's laugh was harsh and grating. A single human ship with outdated weapons? I think not, Captain. You have 30 seconds to comply. The transmission cut off, and Marcus began charging the ship's defensive systems. The Stellar Wanderer wasn't built for combat, but he had made modifications over the years that gave them a fighting chance against lighter vessels. Marcus, Lyra's voice was calm despite the circumstances. May I make a suggestion? I'm open to ideas. Your ship's sensor array has been upgraded with components from my mobility device. I can use it to identify weaknesses in their formation and predict their attack patterns. Marcus glanced at her in surprise. You can do that? The neural interface processes tactical information at approximately 50 times normal speed. I can see their next 3 moves before they make them. Do it. Lyra closed her eyes and Marcus watched as her mobility device began interfacing directly with the ship's systems. Data streams flowed across her consciousness at inhuman speeds, processing the movements and capabilities of the 3 pirate vessels. The lead ship has engine problems on the starboard side, she said, her voice taking on an oddly detached quality. The second vessel is carrying illegal weapons modifications that make their power grid unstable. The third ship has inexperienced crew. They're maintaining formation but not adjusting for optimal firing solutions. How can you possibly know all that from sensor data? I can see the micro variations in their engine signatures, the power, fluctuations in their weapon systems, the hesitation patterns in their piloting. Lyra's eyes opened and they seemed to glow with an inner light. Marcus, I need you to trust me completely for the next few minutes. The first pirate ship opened, fire plasma bolts streaking toward the Stellar Wanderer, but Lyra was already calling out course corrections, her predictions allowing Marcus to dodge attacks that seemed impossible to avoid. Port 15 degrees, down 30. Now hard starboard. Fire on the lead vessel's engine housing. Mark 77 Alpha. Marcus followed her instructions without question. The Stellar Wanderer danced through space with impossible grace, avoiding damage while landing precisely targeted shots on the pirate vessels. Within minutes, the lead ship was drifting with dead engines, and the second ship was retreating as its power grid failed. The third pirate vessel, crewed by the inexperienced team Lyra had identified, attempted to flee but made a critical navigation error that sent them tumbling into the gravity well of a nearby asteroid. How did you do that? Marcus asked as the last pirate ship disappeared from their sensors. Lyra was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. I could see every possible outcome simultaneously, every decision they might make, every weakness in their formation, every moment of hesitation before they acted. It was like watching a complex equation solve itself in real time. That's not normal, even for enhanced intelligence. No, it's not. She looked up at him, and Marcus saw both wonder and fear in her expression. Marcus, I think my father's physicians created something they didn't fully understand. The mobility device isn't just enhancing my capabilities, it's evolving them. Over. The following days, they tested the limits of Lyra's growing abilities. She could process vast amounts of data instantly, predict complex patterns with startling accuracy, and interface with almost any technology they encountered. But more than her enhanced mental capabilities, Marcus was struck by her growing confidence. "You realize you're not the same person who left Zephyr Prime," he said one evening as they shared a meal in the ship's small common area. "I know." Lyra was quiet for a moment, manipulating utensils with the same precision she applied to ship systems. "For years I believed what my father told me, that I was broken, limited, a burden. But these past weeks have shown me that my perceived weakness was actually potential waiting to be unlocked. Your father saw what he expected to see. He never bothered to look deeper." "And you did?" Marcus met her gaze. "I saw someone who refused to accept defeat, even when everyone around her said she should. That kind of strength doesn't come from physical ability. It comes from something much more fundamental." Their conversation was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The holographic image that appeared was unexpected. A Zephyrian official Marcus didn't recognize, wearing the ceremonial robes of the Imperial Administration. "Captain Chen, I am Administrator Zethon of the Imperial Fleet. We have a proposition for you and the Princess." Marcus felt Lyra tense beside him. "What kind of proposition?" "Emperor Vorthak faces a significant rebellion. Several outer colonies have declared independence, and our traditional military tactics have proven inadequate against their guerrilla strategies. We understand that Princess Lyra has demonstrated remarkable tactical capabilities." "How do you know that?" Lyra demanded. "The Vorthon pirates you encountered were not random criminals. They were scouts for the rebellion testing our defenses. Your defeat of them was noted." Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. "You've been tracking us." "Monitoring, yes. Captain Chen, the Empire is prepared to offer you both full pardons, significant financial compensation, and formal recognition of Princess Lyra's status if you assist in ending this rebellion." Lyra was quiet for a long moment, her enhanced mind clearly processing implications at superhuman speed. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a new authority that Marcus had never heard before. "Administrator Zethon, what makes you think I have any loyalty remaining to an empire that discarded me like defective equipment? Because, Princess, you have the opportunity to prove that their assessment was catastrophically wrong." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus and Lyra alone, with a decision that could change everything. Marcus studied her face, seeing the calculations running behind her enhanced consciousness. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking that my father created the perfect weapon against his own empire, and he was too blind to realize it." Lyra's eyes blazed with purpose. "Those rebels aren't just fighting against Zephyrian rule. They're fighting against the same system that declared me worthless." "Are you saying you want to help them?" "I'm saying I want to show everyone, my father, the Empire, the rebels, the entire galaxy, exactly what the broken princess is capable of achieving." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The quiet, intelligent woman he had rescued from her father's court was transforming into something far more powerful and dangerous than anyone had imagined. And he realized that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The ultimate confrontation. 6 months had passed since Marcus and Lyra first encountered the Zephyrian rebellion, and the galaxy had taken notice of their unprecedented partnership. What had begun as a simple rescue mission had evolved into something that threatened to reshape the balance of power across multiple star systems. Lyra stood in the command center of the rebel stronghold on Kepler 186F, her mobility device now integrated with the most advanced tactical systems the rebellion could acquire. Her appearance had changed dramatically over the months. The uncertain princess Marcus had rescued was gone, replaced by a confident strategist whose reputation preceded her across known space. Around her, holographic displays showed the current state of the Zephyrian civil war. Red markers indicated Imperial forces, blue showed rebel positions, and yellow highlighted contested territories. The map told a story of systematic Imperial retreat in the face of unprecedented tactical innovation. "Status report," Lyra commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned respect through results rather than birthright. Commander Vex, a scarred Altarian who led the rebellion's military forces, approached with visible deference. "Princess, our forces have successfully liberated 3 more systems this week. The Imperials are falling back to their core worlds, but they're consolidating for a major counteroffensive. Expected timeline? Intelligence suggests they're planning a massive assault on our primary base within the next month. Everything they have all at once." Marcus entered the command center carrying data tablets containing the latest reconnaissance reports. His relationship with Lyra had deepened considerably over the months, evolving from protector to partner to something neither of them was quite ready to define. He had watched her transform from discarded royalty into the rebellion's most valuable asset. "The Imperial fleet has been reinforced," he announced, placing the tablets where Lyra's enhanced systems could interface with them instantly. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 destroyers, and approximately 200 support vessels. They're calling it Operation Final Strike. Lyra absorbed the intelligence data in seconds, her neural interface processing tactical implications at superhuman speed. "They're not just planning to defeat us, they want to make an example that will discourage future rebellions." "Can we handle that kind of force?" Vex asked. "Not with conventional tactics," Lyra replied, "but conventional tactics are what they're expecting." Over the following weeks, Lyra orchestrated the most complex military deception in galactic history. Using her enhanced abilities, she created layered false intelligence networks that fed the Imperial forces exactly the information she wanted them to receive. To Emperor Vorthak's strategists, it appeared that the rebellion was fracturing under pressure, with desperate factions planning uncoordinated last stands across multiple systems. "Your father always underestimated the importance of intelligence warfare," Marcus observed as they reviewed the deception operation's progress. "Father never understood that strength comes in many forms," Lyra replied. "He saw only physical power and traditional authority. He couldn't conceive that someone he considered broken might possess capabilities he lacked entirely." The night before the expected Imperial assault, Marcus found Lyra alone in her private quarters, staring out at the alien constellations through the reinforced viewport. Her mobility device hummed quietly beside her, its systems interfacing with the base's defensive networks even during her rest periods. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, settling beside her. "Processing probabilities," she corrected. "Our success rate is 73%, assuming all variables perform as expected." "And if they don't, then we improvise." She turned to face him, and Marcus saw something in her expression that reminded him of their first meeting in Emperor Vorthak's throne room. "Marcus, regardless of what happens tomorrow, I need you to know something." "What?" "You saw potential in me when everyone else, including myself, saw only limitation. That changed everything." Their conversation was interrupted by proximity alarms. The Imperial fleet had arrived early, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Through the viewport, they could see the massive warships taking positions around the rebel base, their weapons charging for what appeared to be an immediate assault. "So much for psychological warfare," Marcus muttered, reaching for his weapon belt. "Actually, this is perfect." Lyra's eyes blazed with anticipation as she interfaced with the base's systems. "They're so confident in their overwhelming force that they've abandoned defensive formations. Commander Vex, initiate Protocol Omega." What happened next defied every expectation the Imperial forces had developed over centuries of warfare. The rebel base didn't attempt to fight or flee. Instead, it simply vanished. The entire installation, along with every ship and person inside it, disappeared from all sensors simultaneously. To the Imperial fleet, it appeared as if their target had simply ceased to exist. "Cloaking technology," Emperor Vorthak demanded from the bridge of his flagship. "Impossible. No known species has developed perfect stealth capabilities." But Lyra hadn't used cloaking technology. Instead, she had created a complex web of sensor manipulation, holographic projection, and gravitational distortion that convinced every Imperial scanning system that the rebel base occupied a different location in space-time. The base was exactly where it had always been, but Imperial sensors couldn't detect it. Now comes the interesting part, Lyra announced to the rebel forces. While the Imperial fleet searched desperately for their vanished target, Lyra's real plan unfolded. Hidden rebel ships, positioned throughout the system using the same sensor, manipulation techniques began a systematic assault on the Imperial fleet's flanks and rear positions. The attackers appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, then vanished again before the Imperials could respond. Within hours, the mighty Imperial armada was scattered and demoralized, their formation broken by an enemy they couldn't see or predict. "This is impossible," Emperor Vorthak raged as reports of losses mounted. "How are they doing this?" His answer came in the form of a direct communication from the rebel base. Lyra appeared on his command display, no longer the frightened princess he had discarded months earlier. She sat confidently in her advanced mobility device, surrounded by tactical displays that showed the complete destruction of his fleet's effectiveness. "Hello, father," she said calmly. The Emperor's 4 eyes widened in shock and fury. "Lyra, you're behind this?" "Behind it? I designed it. Every strategy, every innovation, every tactical advantage the rebellion has gained comes from the daughter. You declared worthless, impossible, you were broken, limited. I was enhanced, father. The mobility device your physicians created didn't just compensate for my physical condition. It gave me capabilities you could never imagine. While you saw weakness, they accidentally created the most advanced tactical intelligence in known space." Emperor Vorthak's bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. Around them, reports continued arriving of Imperial ships being outmaneuvered and defeated by invisible opponents. "Surrender now," Lyra continued, "and I'll allow your remaining forces to withdraw with minimal casualties. Continue fighting, and I'll demonstrate exactly what your broken daughter is capable of achieving." "You're still my daughter," Vorthak said desperately. "Return to Zephyr Prime and we can discuss—" "I am no longer your daughter," Lyra interrupted. "I am the commander of forces dedicated to ensuring that no one else is ever discarded for being different." The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. Lyra's forces struck with coordinated precision that left the Imperial fleet with no viable options. Within 6 hours, the mighty armada that was supposed to crush the rebellion had either surrendered, fled, or been disabled. Marcus stood beside Lyra in the command center as reports of total victory arrived from across the system. "So what happens now?" "Now we rebuild," Lyra replied. "Not just the rebellion, but the entire concept of what strength means." In the months that followed, Lyra's victory became the foundation for a new interstellar alliance. Species that had been marginalized or considered inferior by traditional powers found themselves welcomed into a coalition that valued intelligence, innovation, and determination over physical dominance. Emperor Vorthak, faced with the collapse of his empire and the undeniable proof of his daughter's capabilities, requested a private meeting. They met aboard a neutral space station, with Marcus present as both witness and support. "I was wrong," the former emperor admitted, his multiple arms hanging limply at his sides. "I allowed tradition and prejudice to blind me to your true nature." "Yes, you were," Lyra agreed without emotion, "but your mistake became my opportunity to discover capabilities I never knew I possessed." "Can you forgive me?" Lyra was quiet for a long moment, her enhanced mind processing not just the question but all its implications for their future relationship. "I can forgive you, father. But I cannot forget the lesson you taught me about the danger of limiting others based on their perceived weaknesses." The meeting ended with a formal treaty recognizing the new alliance and establishing Lyra as its primary coordinator. As they departed the station, Marcus realized that the frightened princess he had rescued had not just found her strength. She had used it to change the fundamental power structure of their region of space. "Any regrets?" he asked as they watched the stars stream past their viewport. Only one, Lyra replied, taking his hand in hers. I regret that it took so long for someone to show me that being different wasn't the same as being broken. Their partnership had begun with Marcus seeing potential where others saw only limitation. It had evolved into something that transformed not just their own lives, but the lives of countless beings across the galaxy, who had been taught to see themselves as less than they truly were. As the stellar wanderer carried them toward their next adventure, both knew that their greatest achievement still lay ahead. They had proven that strength came in many forms, that intelligence could overcome brute force, and that what others perceived as weakness might actually be the foundation for extraordinary power. The galaxy was vast, full of species and individuals who had been told they were somehow insufficient. Marcus and Lyra's story had become a beacon for all of them. Proof that with the right support and the courage to embrace their unique capabilities, anyone could rise above the limitations others tried to impose on them. In the end, Emperor Vorthax's cruelest insult had become his daughter's greatest gift. By discarding what he saw as broken, he had unknowingly set in motion events that would reshape the balance of power across the stars. And at the center of it all was a princess who had learned that true strength came not from conforming to others' expectations, but from embracing the extraordinary potential that lay within her differences.